What is going on, everyone? We are back for another State of the Franchise episode, and this feels like an appropriate episode to really talk about the entire state of the San Francisco 49ers. Because obviously, of all the wake of last week's owners' meetings comments and what it means today. And of course, we got the draft less than a month away, free agencies pretty much taken care of. So I think it's a great opportunity for Jason and I to look into the state of the franchise. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Before we get into the state of the San Francisco 49ers, which is why we're all here, Jason, how was your week? I know you took the family down to Disney World to celebrate your daughter's birthday. How was it, man? Was it nice to get away a little bit?
For sure. And I think I learned a few things about what to expect when you go to Disneyland, right? I think you have an expectation of the happiest place on earth. But once you get in and about 10 minutes in, you realize that it's not the happiest place on earth. You took a drink for every time a single kid was screaming his head off and having a meltdown. You'd be drunk within the next 45 minutes. And that's not to say the kids are the only ones melting down. Parents are melting down. And it seems like an overstimulation. And that's something that I learned. For all of that, Averly did very well. But the one thing that I learned about myself is I'm stronger than I ever imagined because that 55-pound kid wanted me to carry her around everywhere. And I sure as hell got my steps in. And also, I just never realized the amount of time that it would take to get on a ride, right? Even during the week. Like we went on a Wednesday and it was still 45 to an hour per ride. So yeah. But it was fun. But again, I think we're gonna stick to what we know with Averly, who is this child loves to swim, be in the water, be at water parks. That's it. That's it. And it's so much easier to just let her float in the pool while you have a glass of wine and you just sit and relax. And I think we're gonna go start sticking to that more than anything.
Absolutely. I mean, I haven't taken the kids to Disneyland for a couple years, but it's like a get ready, man. Like, cause you're in for it. Like there's a lot that goes into it. But I'm glad that you had a good time. You're still doing shows, you're still locked in, ready to go.
Mhm.
And of course, given some opinions on this situation. But I want to hear directly from you because I haven't heard how you felt yet about everything that's been discussed about this owners meetings and of course also the entire just wake of everything that's come from it. So
Mhm.
obviously, to recap for you people that already know what I'm about to say, John Lynch says Brock Purdy, leader in the clubhouse. Trey
Mhm.
Lance, Sam Darnold, splitting first team reps. What was your initial reaction? Has your thoughts changed or evolved with more time? What's just kind of how's a Ponte processing owners meeting comments?
At first, the John Lynch comments were an absolute nothing burger to me. And what I mean by that, Brad, is of course Brock Purdy should be the leader in the clubhouse. And for most of you that don't understand golf lingo, that means the person that's ahead with the least amount of strokes going through all the way to the end of the tournament. And why shouldn't he? 8 games, he played well. And he operated this offense at a level that hasn't been seen for a long time. The other comments that John Lynch made, I felt were a little too optimistic in terms of timeline for Brock Purdy, which Kyle Shanahan kind of pumped the
Walked
brakes
back a
on a
little
little
bit.
bit. Yeah, he pumped the brakes on them a little bit and said, we'll reevaluate when we get there. For a team that doesn't know if anybody's going to be alive on Sunday, they sure are making some grand statements about what they know is going to happen 3 or 4 months down the line. I guess my biggest thing would be this. There's a few facts that I walked away with out of here that are inarguable. They're inarguable. If you want to argue, then argue with yourself in the mirror because you can't argue these things. Number one, Brock Purdy, if healthy today, would be the starter. Makes absolute sense.
Mhm.
Brock Purdy today is not healthy. There are no football games this week, next week, or the week after that. We still have a ton of time to go with his recovery. Any recovery that you believe will happen is your opinion and optimism. That's your first batch. Trey Lance will have a jump on all of these things. Trey Lance has to compete. Sam Darnold was brought here to compete. I think all of those things are inarguable. And anybody who thought that Sam Darnold was going to be brought here as a QB3, when you look at the money, it tells you something completely different. Definitely does. So, hey, Trey Lance, you got to work for it, buddy. I love that. Here's the biggest issue that I have with everything: sample size. And I'm going to keep saying this because I wrote an article on Niners Nation in which I broke all of this down. There's a sample size of 8 games with Brock Purdy that has people ready to put him in a gold jacket. There's a sample size of 4 games with Trey Lance that has people saying that he can't play football. And there's a sample size of 6 games in which Sam Darnold was terrible for 49 of those other ones that has people believing that he deserves first team reps. Now, the first team reps thing doesn't bother me as much because we don't know the split. You could split first team reps 99-1. Okay, that's a split. That's a definite split. That's not a 50-50 split. But my problem is this, and this is directed towards the people who now have all of a sudden changed course on the Sam Darnold discourse. When I brought up last season that there's a ton of throws on film that show this potential, the pushback that was given was, he sees ghosts, he's not good, keep him away from my team. Okay, I appreciate that. That's your opinion. Sam Darnold's brought here now, and the people that are showing their narrative and whatever it is that they want to push are now, well, Sam Darnold should get all some of the QB1 reps. Why wouldn't we look at what changed? What changed from 1 year, right? 55 starts, 6 games at the end of the year with Carolina. So it's sample size, and I'm going to keep saying it. 8 for Brock Purdy, fit him in a gold jacket. Less than 4 for Trey Lance, the young man can't play football. 6 games out of 55 from Sam Darnold, and you believe that he deserves even 1 first-team rep. A lot of talk about how Trey Lance was handed the job last year. I'll tell you this, sounds like they're handing Sam Darnold first-team reps, and I don't get why no one understands what I'm talking about. That's what I'll say.
So to kind of surmise that eloquently said, basically breakdown of what's going on with the quarterback situation, at the end of the day, feels like patience is in order, does it not? Is that kind of deep down below it all is kind of what you're alluding to? Maybe we pause a little bit with the grandiose quarterback 1, quarterback 2, quarterback 3, and slot him in as if it's fact. Rather, this might be a fluid situation with a whole lot of nuance baked in. Maybe we treat it as such. Is that kind of what
Bradley Graham?
Is that what you get?
Bradley Graham, I love you so much as a friend. I love you even more as an analyst. The problem with these sample sizes is people have used these sample sizes to push whatever narrative that they would like to have.
Hashtag fits the narrative.
Fits
Jason.
my narrative 100%. All I ask is anything that you have to say about the future of this position is prognostication. What you can do is be objective with all of these sample size, and I would expect 49er fans to be a bit more patient with labeling anyone anything because of the situation they just had with he who shall not be named, right? It's insane to me that people, 8 games of Brock Purdy, unquestioned franchise quarterback, unquestioned. Like it's no chance that there's no chance that anything bad could ever happen. Jason. And also, Brad, he's ready to go by training camp. There's no setbacks. There's nothing that can possibly ever happen. We live in a perfect world as 49er fans. And as 49er fans, everything always goes as expected, right? That's absolutely false. Again, another inarguable. Nothing ever goes right for the 49ers. Nothing ever is a perfect world scenario.
Mhm.
But the sample size has shown me, and it asks for right now, what I'm seeing from the sample size is showing me everyone's personal bias and showing me what everyone wants to be true, as opposed to using the information you have and gathering further information to understand fully what is going on. And that's really where I'm at with it more than anything. We're talking about a chance that Trey's going to have with Sam Darnold. Let me double and triple down. If it's down to Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, who has to compete to start week one while Brock Purdy's on the mend, Trey Lance is going to start. And if Trey Lance doesn't start, we've got a much bigger problem than the fact that Sam Darnold's here. So let me double and triple down one more time for you.
Okay, do it.
My eyes tell me much more about Sam Darnold's sample size than it does about Trey Lance's because there's so little. So you mean to tell me we've got a 55 game sample size of Sam Darnold, and yet you want to see what he has? Well, you know what? You've seen it. Trust your eyes. What you haven't seen is the young man in Trey Lance. And as far as Brock Purdy goes, of course he deserves to be the quarterback that starts right away when this team is ready to go, when he's healthy. Of course he does. I don't think there's anybody. That's inarguable. He's got hurdles to clear. He's got to get healthy. He's got to get back to that place that he was last year. And now we have this little monkey wrench here where what if Trey Lance starts to scratch the surface of this third overall pick that the 49ers moved heaven and earth for? Now the conversation becomes a lot tougher. Because if you're able to turn it right back over to Brock Purdy when Trey Lance gets a full look at OTAs, minicamp, training camp, and a few games, we've got a bigger discussion to have. My point here, and this is how I'm going to end it, Brad. We know nothing. You're prognosticating. Everything is fluid. Please, guys, stop telling me that Brock Purdy is the franchise quarterback. Stop telling me that Trey Lance can't play football. Stop telling me that you want to see what Sam Darnold has. I've seen what Sam Darnold has. I have eyes. No, thank you. I want to see what Trey Lance has, and Brock Purdy has hurdles to clear. We've got a long way to go for this to manufacture itself and come to fruition. Guys, let's settle down and let's do what I always tell you. Do you want to get it right or do you want to be? And that's a question I'll leave to you.
Absolutely. And well said. And I think this is going to make for a fascinating off-season, just continuous conversation because it's going to go into OTAs. As we know, Brock Purdy will be out. It's going to be Trey Lance and it's going to be Sam Darnold. And I also imagine it's going to be either a undrafted free agent quarterback and or a drafted quarterback, maybe in the 6th or 7th round. They need additional quarterbacks. They're going to need four quarterbacks at OTAs. They only have 2 because we're not counting Brock Purdy. So there are going to be additional quarterbacks that are going to be on this roster. And not to necessarily come in and push Trey Lance or even Sam Darnold, but they need camp arms. We know how it works,
Yes.
and it's going to translate into training camp. So the big thing with all of this is that it is fascinating because what do we know about Sam Darnold? When you talk about the sample size, when you look at it, his issues all come down to processing and seeing the field and operating within a system, getting it out on time, doing those types of things, right? I think those are the things that I pointed to as him being a bust coming out of USC into the league and all those different types of things, and we saw materialize at the next level. What I find to be fascinating is, just like you said, like, go gather more information. And as you know, my whole thing switched before Sam Darnold was here.
Talk about it.
He went from a guy in 2021 where I was up and down Twitter. Go check my Twitter, type in Sam Darnold. You are going to see me freaking out about the possibilities of the 49ers trading for Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
But when we got into who's going to be quarterback 3 for the San Francisco 49ers or a additional quarterback, because it does appear that at minimum, Kyle is going to give Sam Darnold a shot, not just insurance policy. My whole thing changed because now we're looking at Sam Darnold as a 25-year-old quarterback who flamed out of New York, went to the Panthers with who's a Rule, and we knew Rule was on the outs there for a second. Yeah, Ben
was the defensive
McAdoo,
coordinator.
he gets hurt, and
Couldn't be
he's
the Baker.
yeah, he put some bad stuff on tape, right? Like
Couldn't be the who?
Baker Mayfield. There's
Okay.
some bad stuff on tape from Sam Darnold. But again, I got into the tape at the end of the year, and I'm sitting here like, dude, Kyle's going to love this guy. Like, when you see Sam Darnold on time, making the right read, throwing the ball, you're like, oh, Kyle's out here salivating. Because you know Kyle has loved Sam Darnold. It's
he has.
I really correlate it to the Kirk Cousins affinity. I think he has that same affinity for Sam Darnold. So what I find fascinating about this offseason is I've seen on tape that Sam can do it. Is he going to do it consistently? Is he going to do it consistently at a high level? We have no freaking idea. But what I can see is that he can. And what we're going to define and try to understand through OTAs and training camp is which one of those guys makes Kyle the happiest, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Who's going to play football the way Kyle wants it to be played? And with that being said, Kyle has had a different offense, or what feels like a different offense for Trey, a different rhythm that goes into play calling, a different formational standard for Trey's base plays and things like that. Do we see a level playing field in regards to how everything is called, or do you think we still get kind of that Trey offense where they're really trying to utilize quarterback power, zone read, but we saw that with Purdy. I mean, we saw Kyle try to run Purdy up the middle. So what do you think? What do you think about that dynamic of like actually getting into the nuts and bolts of what this competition could look like? Do you think it's going to be similar offenses? Do you think it's going to be split down the middle? This guy gets 3 first-team reps. This guy gets 3 first-team reps, and it's like a constant rotation. How do you see it playing out in training camp? Because I'm sure you and I are going to be front row center for that.
We are, and I wanna have a honest discussion with people, because hindsight's an incredible thing, and hindsight makes everybody 2020, right? Like that's what it is.
Oh, 100%.
When Trey Lance was drafted, the idea of a dual threat quarterback in this running game had this fan base up in arms and ready to go, right? Oh, can't you imagine what it's going to be like when Trey puts the ball in at the time? Elijah Mitchell's belly. Debo Samuel's running this
11
way.
on 11 football, Jason.
11 on 11 football. And then, unfortunately, Trey gets hurt running the football. And they were like, what are you doing, Kyle? Why would you do that? Guys, it's football. He got injured. And I don't think you're playing to his skill set if you are putting him in a straight drop back, straight up like throw the football thing. One thing that I kind of want to point out real quick. So to answer your question, the short answer is this. Yes, there's still going to be the Trey Lance running the football, zone read, having guys running in misdirection, all of those things. That's all going to be there. All of that. And it should be, because you didn't draft the guy to be a straight up drop back passer. If you did and you wanted to have someone as a drop back passer, Mac Jones was there for you. That's not why you drafted Mac Jones. That's not why you drafted Trey Lance. If you wanted a guy who's going to throw the football and be on time with the football and throw the football and all that stuff, you would have drafted Mac Jones. You drafted Trey Lance to be more explosive, to put pressure on defenses. That is this. Okay. My problem is Trey Lance is not being afforded the same sort of discussion that Sam Darnold is. Here's how I am. And Marvin, he did not ruin RG3. He was not the head coach. Can we just stop? Yeah, I mean, do you want to blame him also for the Atlanta defense not being able to get off the field against New England as well? Never seen an offensive coordinator or a run game coordinator take more heat than the head coach. Dan Quinn was the head coach. Mike Shanahan was the head coach. Stop with the he ruined RG3 and he blew the Atlanta game. Tired of that narrative as well. My question is this. Every single person wants to ask, well, could you imagine Sam Darnold with this coach and these weapons? But it's never, can you imagine Trey Lance in this offense with this coach and these weapons? It's ridiculous to me that a man has put out such bad film. Go ahead.
Do you think it's because of what we've seen so far that people are saying that? Because when you go back to the Arizona game, et cetera, you're like, where's the disconnect? Because it kind of does feel like there's a disconnect. I don't know, just a counterpoint.
There's a disconnect because of sample size. Because you've seen Sam Darnold make throws on the field, and you're like, oh, there's the throw. But then you disregard the 4 baffling throws that he throws right to people, and he literally throws it right to defenders. In every good Sam Darnold game down the stretch, and I implore you guys to please go back and watch. For every one of those great throws that you see, there's 4 of them that you're sitting there like, I can't believe he just made that throw, and they end up either incomplete or they end up intercepted. Okay. My question is sample size. So a 6-game, 55-game sample size for Sam Darnold. Has you more excited about him in this offense than what Trey Lance was brought here to do and why they moved heaven and earth to draft him? That doesn't make sense. What I tell people all the time is you can come to conclusions in different ways. Some people use stats. Some people use analytics. Some people use the eyeball test. I'm going to trust my eyes. Sam Darnold has been largely shit. And why do you think that nobody else wanted to take a chance on him? The Jets were trying to get rid of him. The Panthers didn't want him. He signs this deal because Kyle Shanahan likes him. But my problem is, why on earth are you excited to see Sam Darnold in this offense with these weapons, with this coach? But it's not, I'm excited to see Trey in the same offense with these weapons and this coach. Is it somehow different? That's the question that I have. And that's the part that bothers me the most, I think. It's never, let's see what Trey can do. It's Sam Darnold has been terrible for a long time, but let's see what he can do. Well, you know what? I've seen what he can do. I'm good. Let's see what the kid can do, please.
I think the baseline comes back to is we all want to see what, not all of us, a lot of us want to see what Trey Lance can do, but he hasn't been either available to take advantage of that opportunity or Jimmy G's been in the way. So it's like with Trey Lance, it's going to be fascinating to see what the leash looks like because it feels like it's getting shorter. And like that's the way I'm reading the organization. I think they still believe in Trey Lance, and of course they want Trey Lance to be successful. They invested a lot to go and get him, and to just push him to the side feels like a bit of a fool's errand because if you still believe that potential is there, then maximize it, develop it, refine it, and put it in a position to be successful. Because I think one of the things that you and I have talked about, and the big thing that I've been about with Trey Lance, is environment of belief. It felt like since Trey walked into the building, there's been this weird like cloud. And I don't know if that's just because you have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster, you add Trey Lance. We know internally everyone loves Jimmy Garoppolo. So you know what that signals. It signals the end of the Jimmy Garoppolo era. Does that threaten? Does that like what does that do? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it just has always felt like, I mean, go back to the 2021 season marketing material where Trey Lance wasn't like involved in it. Like that was kind of like the start. And it started a conversation, but that whole kind of vibe permeated. It kind of continued, and it was like we felt like the 49ers were going to push Trey Lance out there potentially as a rookie. It didn't really work out, but then it was like we hear, well, Trey Lance was gaining ground on Jimmy, but then he breaks his finger against the Raiders. Then we get him against Arizona. So it's like Trey just hasn't been able to get it done from a consistency standpoint, just because there have been injury unfortunate circumstances, right? Like the ankle being the worst one of it all. And I'll talk about it in a second because I do see the super chat, and I don't know if you did you see the JT O'Sullivan thing? Oh boy, that was get your popcorn ready. He came after Kyle's neck. So we'll talk about that in a second. I'll try and transition into it. But it feels like at the end of the day, fans are going to fan, right? And they're going to latch on to one quarterback. They're going to disdain another quarterback. I think that's one thing that we can set our clock to with a certain segment of fans. There are fans that exist that actually want whoever's taking snaps under center to be successful. And it doesn't matter if it is Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, or Sam Darnold, as long as it's the correct decision and that decision ultimately translates to wins. There's a segment of people out there that actually do exist. We just only hear from it's Trey Lance or nothing, or oh, screw Trey Lance. It's this guy. Should have never got rid of Jimmy G. Sam Darnold's going to take, or it's Brock, so it's like there's a whole melting pot. We tend to hear from a loud majority, I guess, of certain segments of it. But I think at the end of the day, what we should want is for these guys to be successful and for that to be proven out on the field. And from what I've gathered from what Kyle and John are saying is that seems to be the mentality, is like, even though we do have high hopes for Trey Lance, we're going to have to go out and have a competition, and we're going to actually leave it up to may the best man win. And Sam Darnold's going to have that opportunity, and Brock Purdy's going to have that opportunity. So it's going to be very interesting to see who ultimately takes hold of that. But that's why I'm saying this is probably going to be the most interesting training camp since Kyle's taken over. And that includes the year Trey was drafted, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And all of this to say it should be may the best man win. And it should be whoever the quarterback is, you would want them to succeed. That's been my point this entire time. Right now, what you're doing with these three quarterbacks is you're in a sports book, and there's odds, and there's Brock Purdy minus 175, and there's Trey Lance plus 250, and there's Sam Darnold plus 500. I don't see why you need to put your money on one of these guys when it should be whoever the best man is and whoever brings home Super Bowl number 6. Again, do you want to be right or do you want to get it right? All of those things that I said about Sam Darnold, are absolutely true. But if he has truly turned the corner, as evidenced with his play in those last 6 games, because he was far better when Ben McAdoo took away a lot of the deep shots and allowed him to operate intermediate. DJ Moore reaped the benefits. So did Terrace Marshall. The only reason I noticed is because I love DJ Moore and I watched the Carolina Panthers to see what he's doing.
DJ Moore was cooking out there. I was like, oh, I went out. I'm like, I got to go get some DJ Moore stock. Right. I was like, I might not have been familiar with your game as of late because it's been kind of quiet. And I was like, oh, damn. It's like DJ's out here cooking, man.
But my question is to the people that are so confident that what you saw in those 6 games is what Sam Darnold is why are you so confident? And people turned back to me and said, do you remember Alex Smith? And yes, I do. But I think you prove my point when you say, do you remember Alex Smith? Because you can't name another quarterback who has played so poorly earlier on in his career, and all of a sudden, the lights have come on. No matter where they were drafted. You can't. You cannot. Jeff George, high draft pick, bounced around.
Would you consider Tannehill as one?
No, that don't count. No, that don't count. A converted wide receiver to quarterback was not drafted high to be the guy. You cannot name another player, another quarterback who is drafted highly, moved on to another team after a large sample size of not being good, that all of a sudden the lights came on. What if Alex Smith was the exception and not the rule? Don't point to the one situation that this happened and say that's what's going to happen when there's a larger sample size of quarterbacks who have not done what Alex Smith has done. What if Alex Smith was the one guy who actually had the wherewithal and had the brain to turn his career around and had the coaching support to turn his career around. Don't point to the one thing that's happened and ignore the hundreds of other quarterbacks who were drafted high, moved on to different teams, had different coaches. Oh, this is the situation for them now, and never did anything. I had, and this was peak meltdown mode for me. I had someone on Twitter say to me, Jason, stop being triggered and do more research. What about Drew Brees? What about Drew Brees? That's the answer I got, as if Drew Brees wasn't even good in San Diego. And the fact that they drafted Phillip Rivers behind him and Drew Brees had a shoulder injury that not only the San Diego Chargers at the time balked at, the Miami Dolphins doctor said, I don't know if he's going to be able to play football again. And somehow Drew Brees was bad as a Charger and the New Orleans Saints turned his whole career around. Please, guys, please. Alex Smith is not the situation to point to with Sam Darnold. I am looking at the exception, not the rule. It is time for everyone to do this one thing, just this one thing. It's time to take away your personal bias, take away who you want to win this thing, and take care of the fact that everything needs to be objective. Be objective. That's it, man. I'm tired of it, bro. Stop telling me that Sam Darnold is Alex Smith when nobody has ever been Alex Smith but Alex Smith. I don't get it. Please explain it to me.
Yeah, you've done some talking about this topic, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
You're ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
You got all kinds of stuff ready to lock and load. Let's see. Brian says JT O'Sullivan absolutely roasted Shanahan over his play calls for protecting the quarterbacks this past season. Is there merit to Kyle's play calling endangering players? And again, we talked about it a little bit a second ago. If you haven't saw it, JT O'Sullivan did an April Fool's Day video where it was like he was interviewing Kyle Shanahan, but it was him and he looks just like him. I'll give my quick kind of overall view. Like, it didn't feel playful. It felt like there was some like genuine disdain for Kyle Shanahan, and I could be reading that wrong. I thought when he was calling him Mike and then did the whole segment on like nepotism. I was like, this feels a little close to home for JT. But again, what was your, and that's not really what Brian's asking. He's asking about the ongoing debates since the NFC Championship game. Brock Purdy, Josh Johnson, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, you name it, right? Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, all have been hurt with Kyle Shanahan. So what is your takeaway from what JT was talking about?
Well, first of all, before we get into the Kyle Shanahan talk, which is the only thing that really matters, I guess, and I'm about to say something that's thrown away, but the 49ers haven't had a starting quarterback have a full season since Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019, and everyone else before Kyle Shanahan got there was getting injured as well, too. So let's just make sure that we talk about that as well, because everyone seems to forget there's a bigger thing going on with injuries in San Francisco, and maybe the fact that they take chances on players who have been chronically injured their entire career and usually have gotten injured year to year and take chances on them and bring them in and say, this is the year they're going to be healthy. Maybe that has a little bit to do with it. But okay. To talk about JT O'Sullivan's video, JT O'Sullivan's video is, for me, largely with the interview process. If you noticed last year, he did an April Fool's video about his quarterback rankings. And he was talking about the way that, I'm going to put it out there. And if you haven't seen it, I want to make sure you listen to this. He put it out there about the way that people evaluate black quarterbacks. And he talks about how they are always given the same criticisms, attitude problems, can't read the field, can't do he was literally making an April Fool's joke about that. So when he does it, it's a joke, but it also has a little bit of truth behind it. Okay, so this is another April Fool's thing. And him talking to Kyle, talking about nepotism, all that stuff. I did feel that it was a little bit of jabs, but I did feel that a lot of it is a joke, right? He has been this way with his April Fool's videos going back to last year. When you talk about these plays in particular, you have to look at the plays themselves and how they develop. So the Trent Williams play in which Trey Lance gets injured, Trent Williams misses a down block. We love Trent Williams. He's the best in the world, but he misses his block there. He missed his block. He was supposed to get over to one more block and get to the next level, missed the block. You can blame the play call all you want, but if the execution is done by Trent Williams, then the play is successful and maybe Trey doesn't break his ankle. Okay, that's one play. And then the Brock Purdy play, famously, why are you leaving a backup tight end to block Hassan Reddick, all of those things? Okay, it's happened plenty of times. It just so happened on this play that Brock tears his UCL. Now, I could nitpick. Brock could have stepped up, thrown that thing a little bit quicker, gotten that ball out a little bit faster if he was a little bit more on time, because Ayuk was already going to be out of his break and you get that ball out and it's right there for you to see. I don't necessarily put it all on the fact that there was a backup tight end. I put it on the fact that the backup tight end blew his block, because other backup tight ends have been able to hold that block for half a second longer. Jimmy Garoppolo's injury comes down to, I think that was really, really just poor luck. The bottom line is this. I think what you are missing in terms of this is it's not the play calls itself. It's the execution. And who does the execution fall on? The coach. And I think that's the part that we're missing. It's not the play call itself. It's the execution. And execution falls on the guy who is preparing his team throughout the week. That's the part where you can still say, Kyle isn't perfect. I don't want Kyle fired, but Kyle has some work to do. And he absolutely does. And I do think that's the part that's being missed. Everyone wants to blame the play call, but you should be blaming the execution. And if you're looking for a reason why the execution isn't there, you should probably look at the head coach. Love you, Kyle, but this is the only way that I can rationalize this in my mind. You can say Kyle needs to work on things without saying Kyle needs to be fired. And I think that's where we are right now at this point.
Yeah. So I would say I agree with the execution part of it. I do think that when you go back to all those plays, you're looking at a lapse in execution. There's something being missed by a certain player that translates into this kind of snowballing effect. So because the execution wasn't met, there is going to be a variable that's added into the specific play because it doesn't work, or the defense read it, sniffed it out, they had an answer for it. And welcome to football, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we play the game, and that's why these guys game plan for weeks on end, trying to get the upper hand on their opponent, and why we see so much pre-snap shifting from Kyle Shanahan. He's trying to identify pre-snap and get these guys moving into specific spots. Execution can absolutely be a function of coaching. However, when we're looking at like one of the examples that we're talking about, right, with the pulling of the offensive lineman, like Kyle, like I think we can talk about it. Like, yeah, I don't think Trent did it properly. I don't think Aaron Banks took a wide enough pull step. I don't think, because he didn't take enough depth in his pull step, he ran into Mike McGlinchey's guy. And I know JT's point was Burford and McGlinchey should double and then go down, but I don't have a problem with Mike being singled up on a down block because Mike did his job. He absolutely destroyed that defensive end. So I don't think that's the issue. I think Aaron Banks needed to take a wider kind of more depth. You're taught to take depth with your pull step, not just go angular. Because you have to clear. And he didn't. Aaron Banks hit, which threw off the timing of both Banks and Trent. And then they were out of whack. And then right. Trey was sped up on top of them being late. So execution can absolutely be a reason to why this is. But like, again, even when we are trying to like decipher like who's at fault, it's also like, man, this is just football at the end of the day. Like the players got to go out and do it. And they're going up against guys who get paid millions and millions of dollars as well, with DCs who get paid millions and millions of dollars. And that's why we go out and play the game. And so we can try to assign blame all we want, but I just look at all these situations as being extremely nuanced. You go
Mm-hmm.
to the Eagles game, like I'm looking at it like, okay, yeah, in a real tangible best case scenario experience, you don't want Tyler Kroft one-on-one with Reddick in a pass blocking situation where you're holding the ball more than 2.5 seconds. That's not what you want. You don't want, that's not how you draw it up either. But it's like, and you don't draw it up for Kroft to just get absolutely freaking ripped, swipe, gone, like he wasn't even there. That's not how you draw it up. But also, like you alluded to, there are things that happen within said play where Brock was a tad late on timing.
He was late, unfortunately.
So there's risk and reward with every play. That's
Yeah.
why sometimes you get the reward and sometimes you get the opposite outcome. Unfortunately, this one is blown out of proportion because the quarterback got hurt and it was one of the most magnified injuries in recent memory based on the timing, when it happened, how it happened, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like you look at all these examples and you go back to the Jimmy Garoppolo one with the zero blitz and like the way JT explained it. Again, I'm not a route guy, so like I have to kind of take his word for like the way that they identify hot routes and things of that nature. And apparently Debo didn't, and so Jimmy picked the left side of the field. Both routes were covered on the left, and they had zero. You have a free rusher coming off the left side.
The ball has to come out.
It has to come out, or Jimmy's got to do something else. And he just kind of faded out, got tackled by two guys, and they fell on his foot and it broke. Like, so if we're really trying to assign blame, like I always come back to having a hard time, especially like, like let's say Trey Lance, people want to pin that on Kyle. It's like I look at it from an offensive lineman perspective. If I'm Chris Forrester, I'm like Aaron, like you got to get out of that stance and you got to clear. You can't get caught in the wash. And Trent, you got to be able to withstand getting caught in the wash. And Trey, you got to slow it down. Like you got to understand that your blockers aren't in front of you. Don't run in front of your blockers, So it's like there's so many different layers to these conversations. And it feels like there's a lot of cut and dry when it comes to football. And I just feel like, yes, we can look at this. We can chalk them up to mostly execution. But even when it comes to the execution, that's also on the players on the field. Yes, it's on coaching and putting the players in position to succeed, but they got to do it. They got to execute. You got to take the right steps. You got to use the proper technique. And if you don't, that to me is more on individual execution on a micro level than a macro coaching level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's the thing. It's like Kyle gets the blame for putting Tyler Kroft out there on Hassan Reddick. Why aren't you blaming Tyler Kroft for not holding his block for half a second more? Like
it would be more on Tyler Kroft than anyone else. Like,
and it's
because it was an open shot. He schemed up an open shot.
And it's worked 100 other, like when it works against the Seattle Seahawks, and it literally worked, with the same sort of design. There was no, oh, what are you doing with a backup tight end? It really boils down to what type of person are you? Are you a results guy? Or are you a process guy? Now, let me explain.
Good point.
Result is always going to be king, right? Because when the play goes bad, nobody ever figures out the process of why it went bad. They just look at the play and say, that was bad. But it's never, hey, was it this guy? Was it this guy? Why I'm a bit more of process is this. There's ways to have bad process that lead to good plays, and there's sometimes where good process doesn't lead to the right result. What I mean by that is, if a quarterback throws the ball into double coverage, but his receiver literally makes an extraordinary play and jumps over both of these guys and steals the ball from an interceptable pass, and he takes it down the field and they score a touchdown, you look at that result and you say, hey, wow. Look at that. Wow. Me, I look at that and say, well, I'm glad that worked out that way, but good God, was that not the right throw? Now, right. I want to also preface that by saying we have far too many people that are worried about process when it comes to plays that aren't as nuanced as that. What I mean is, like, if it's not the worst decision on the field, There's no reason to look around. Like when Jimmy Garoppolo throws the ball in between two guys and he bangs it in between two guys, and all of a sudden, boom, it's a big gain, and you're like, damn, well, he had this other guy open. I think that's a little bit more nuanced than just the outright wrong decision. The outright wrong decision that should be analyzed a little bit more. Process over results always for me. You can have good process and have a poor result. You can have poor process and have a great result. I think the situation is much more nuanced than just the play caller itself. I do think that we need to look at the players for their execution, and then that brings me back to coaching for the execution. So I do think there's a larger discussion that needs to be had. Kyle is not short of blame here. Let's just make sure that we get this out there, because at the end of the day, when the team is winning games and they've won 8 and 9, 10 games, and we're all saying Kyle's the man, well, then the same sort of discussion needs to be had when things don't go right, because you are the coach. It's the same deal with the quarterback. When the quarterback wins, he gets a quarterback win. When things aren't going right and he's not playing well, he gets the blame. For me, I just think that this conversation is much more nuanced than Kyle is a bad play caller. Kyle's putting guys in actual, bad spots. But I think it's a little bit of almost everything, right? In certain situations, maybe you don't call that, but Ayuk was running right open. Purdy, if he steps up and throws that ball just a little bit quicker, boom, you got yourself an explosive play, and the 49ers are doing exactly what they thought they were going to do to the Eagles. And I just do think that, again, instead of blaming Kyle for having the tight end block, maybe the tight end needs to be looked at like, why didn't you hold that block for a little while? For me, it's just such a nuanced conversation that it's not so black and white that it needs to just fall at the feet of the coach. But the coach isn't going to escape blame, and he shouldn't, because he's the head coach.
Yeah, and I think that's well said. And if I had to give my objective feeling about not knowing the intricacies of how that play was designed throughout the week, what their plans were, I mean, it was the sixth play. That was something that they definitely had in the chamber.
Script.
And it was going to hit. If Brock was able if Brock didn't wait for Ayuk to get open,
he got to throw it before he's open.
Threw it as if he was going to be open. We're probably talking about a walk-in touchdown.
And Brad, seems to me that's a guy who is getting his first few reps and only in his 9th game as well, too. Wait, so he's not perfect. Wait, so you've seen things that make you encouraged. But those are the little things in which I say we are still gathering information with Brock Purdy. And those are the little things. Those are the little things that comes down to it with quarterback play. So that's why the whole running to it's got to be Brock. Brock is the leader of the clubhouse. He's got a long way to go. And we have seen quarterbacks come out like the world on fire, not develop. Not saying that that's what I want for Brock. Not saying that that's what I think will happen. But there is far too small a sample size for me to jump out the window and say, franchise quarterback, this guy shouldn't play, give this guy a shot. That's the stuff that we're talking about. For as much as you were impressed, and I was impressed with what he did, he's still got room to grow. And whether that makes you happy and that's what you're pointing to it, and you're saying, this is why I'm encouraged with Brock Purdy, I don't argue that with you. But there are far too many people that are absolutely sure that there's no chance that Brock Purdy can't get back to that level and all of those things. This, for me, is a perfect talking point when it comes to that. Step up, throw that guy open. That will come with reps. That's why you don't jump out the window.
There's a lot of gray area with football, and people don't talk about it that way. But again, like kind of what I was talking about is like, if I have to be objectively upset with play calling from Kyle Shanahan, I didn't like the Josh Johnson play right after that, where he has George Kittle coming across the formation to try to like pass block Reddick. Like that's a hard. I mean, you had basically Jawan Jennings there to be a cushion to allow Kittle to get over. But again, like I didn't love that play. I thought that was like, ooh, like especially after like the circumstances of events that led up to it. It was like, yeah, maybe we don't go back to a similar play like that. Like I feel like the first play where Brock got hurt, I can rationalize that was a good play call in my opinion, because it was there. He schemed it up and the execution wasn't there within said play. But then I think going to have Kittle scream across formation to block Reddick yet again with Jawan Jennings there, and then Josh Johnson gets like destroyed. That's where I'm like, all right, Kyle, come on. We
Come
don't
on.
we don't got it. We don't got to go back to it.
Especially with Josh Johnson.
Right. I was like, we could do something different there. Like, I don't think that's the call you want to make. Like, I have more problem with that call than the actual call where Brock got hurt. So there's plenty of nuance, right? We're not going to agree with everything Kyle does, like, and all that stuff. And so there's the gray area, right? Jason has his hands up. So we are going to respectfully call on Jason. Yes, Jason, what do you have to say?
I love the comments about the players know more than Jason. Well, sure, they play NFL football. But the players backed Jimmy Garoppolo, and the San Francisco 49ers moved heaven and earth to replace him and interviewed every able-bodied two-armed quarterback under this sun. So the players can say whatever they want. The organization didn't believe. So please, take that the players know more than Jason shit and just throw it out the window, please, because you sound dumb. No matter how many Fields Great Baby shirts they wore, no matter how much they said they loved Jimmy Garoppolo, guess what? The 49ers wanted to replace him because he was injured, because they needed an upgrade. But all the players know so much. Guys, that's a dumb narrative as well. Players love guys that they can again, in a workplace, you make friends, and you have Jimmy Garoppolo by no means is a bad quarterback. But I don't want to hear about, because if it was up to the players, they would have never drafted Trey Lance. They would have just stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo the entire time. I don't care what you think I know or what they know. Listen to what the organization does. 187, you have got Brock Purdy's balls all the way down your neck right now. And it's really, really sad to see. My thing is this. Again, the players can say whatever they want. They can say, oh, I love Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, the organization is telling you another thing when they wanted to trade for Stafford, and they wanted to look at Deshaun Watson before all that stuff happened, before they traded up to 3 to draft the quarterback. I don't care what the players have to say. The organization is going to do what they think is best. The players have a voice. They certainly do. But will you stop it? Will you stop it? I don't care. I don't care. Again, 187, I'm cooking you. Everyone in the chat is. You are looking dumb. It does not matter what players want. If Trey Lance is out there hooping and he's sitting there, and Bomber T, you're also Dick Rider number 2. If you're sitting there and you're watching Trey Lance 5 wins in a row, balling out, and the team is like, we want Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan's going to say, get out of this office. We are going to do what I want to do, and that's what they'll always want to do. Please stop making me cook you, and I'm trying to do it as respectfully as possible. But you saying that I don't know more than the team, but you are using whatever it is that this team is saying that fits your narrative and makes you feel great, because if they were saying all that about Trey, you would be like, well, what do the players know? But because they're saying it about the guy you like, they're absolutely true. Can you please stop so I can stop picking you apart, because it's too easy. Don't do this. I can do this all day. Please.
Oh, boy. So, in summary of today's State of the Franchise episode, Jason, I think it's crystal clear. We still don't know what's really going on at the quarterback position.
That's my thing. That's my thing. That's my thing. Is when you hear guys say, well, Brock Purdy is the leader in the clubhouse. He should be. But they don't make decisions in March. When you go out there, it's going to be who's the best quarterback. Does Brock Purdy deserve every single shot to be quarterback 1? Sure, when he's healthy, which he's not. I'm not Mr. Know-It-All. You're just Mr. Don't Know Shit. You're just, again, if Fred Warner said that Trey Lance is the guy and he has it, you would say, Fred don't know shit. What is he talking about? It's Brock Purdy. What does he know? It's always whatever you want it to be, and it's never what it really is. Of course they're going to say that about Brock Purdy. He played great. He deserves that praise. You all sound dumb. Like, for me, like, you're just now, because Fred said that. If Fred said that shit about CJ Beathard, you sit there and be like, damn, what an idiot. CJ Beathard stinks. But because he says it about the guy that you're dick eating, It's fact. It's incredible to me, man. Like you're not even seeing the simple fact that I'm making right now. Like the simple fact. If Fred Warner came out tomorrow and said Sam Darnold's going to win the competition, you would say, what an idiot Fred is. Trade him. Get rid of him. I'm burning my 54 jersey. You sound crazy, dog. Just speak in objectiveness, which you have none of right now. Please stop making me cook you. I'm tired of this, bro. Please. I'm doing this respectfully. Not yelling. I'm chilling. Like, I'm just like, I'm tired of it, man. Just because you want something to happen and people are saying things that agree with what you're saying does not mean that it's the facts or it's true. And you are making yourself dumber and dumber by saying that. All you need to do is watch it play out. I'm not Mr. Know-It-All. You just Mr. You don't know shit. And it don't matter where I'm from, blood.
I think it's time that right after this 187 and Jason get into a Twitter space and like let us continue this cooking because the chat is absolutely going crazy.
I just don't understand. I don't understand. Like, you don't have a good answer for that one. If Fred Waters said we need to bring CJ Beathard back because he had it when I was here, you would say Fred Water is out of his mind. But because he says that the one guy that you are absolutely slobbering on right now is the guy well, you don't know shit more than the players. You sound crazy, dog. And I just, it's easier and easier to talk about it, man. I don't get it. You still have yet to make any sort of fact other than the fact that I'm just a guy who I talk, which, by the way, you watch all the time, by the way. Like, you're in all of my streams. So if I don't know anything, stop watching me. That's the one thing I would say. But it's just, for me, it's about whatever fits your narrative. Fred Warner said in one interview, Brock Purdy's the man. So I love Brock Purdy, and oh, God damn it, I love Brock Purdy, and I'm going to say that. Blood, it doesn't matter. And if Trey, no, you are absolutely backpedaling now. If Fred said that about Trey, you would be happy. You would absolutely not. You were banging the table for Jimmy Garoppolo the entire time. We know you. We seen you. Stop it, man. And Mr. Joe, you can hop off my dick too, bro. That's all you got to do.
Hey, y'all better be on your P's and Q's coming into this chat. Jason ain't got time today. He's cooking everyone coming in here talking nonsense. So you better watch out because he's coming for your neck. This is hilarious. But at the end of the day, with all like we just again we like I wasn't even intending on doing this whole show on the quarterback. I just kind of wanted to get your opinion, and as of course, the quarterback conversation takes on a life of its own. But even regardless of the quarterback unknowns, which is what at the end of the day they are, all unknowns, all three of them unknowns. Like, even if you want to say Purdy is that guy, we don't know. Because we don't. He had a serious injury, and we got to see how he returns. And you never know how these guys are going to return from a serious injury. So you always have to keep that in the back of your mind. So regardless of all this back and forth of like, this is the guy, that's the guy, your guy sucks, this guy's him, we don't know. But looking over at the entire roster, because that's now been kind of put to the side, it's back to quarterback being the number one point of discussion. The roster as a whole is still fire, right? The San Francisco 49ers still got good coaches on their staff.
Mm-hmm. And they're still the best roster in the NFC right now. The Philadelphia Eagles are not better than they were last year. The Dallas Cowboys are the only team that I would argue have improved themselves by getting Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. I would say that they've improved themselves. They have a first-round pick. The Minnesota Vikings did not improve themselves. I would say that the Seattle Seahawks are the team that nobody wants to talk about right now, and they still have their early draft picks right now. They are absolutely a team that's improved themselves. The gap is closing, but absolutely, the San Francisco 49ers still have the best roster, top to bottom. And when you look at the odds from whatever sportsbook it is, DraftKings, whatever, Vegas, the 49ers are still the third highest in terms of that. And they still don't know who the starting quarterback is. I think that's a testament to coaching. That's a testament to the roster. It's a testament to what they built. And I think the 49ers, for a few more years, while they continue to build this roster in the way that they have, will be in the top of those discussions. And if they ever get the quarterback position figured out for a long time, God help everyone else. So, yeah, again, all of this stuff to say the 49ers are still at the top. So, again, it is what it is. So, And I saw somebody say I'm sensitive. If you can't spell, you can't you can't attack me. You got to
Justin
spell the
says
word.
Jason has been dealing with kids having meltdowns for a week. At this point. He ain't dealing with it today.
Justin knows. He probably been over there. It's insane, bro. It's insane, man.
100%. But yeah, man, this has been definitely a spicy episode. But again, it's always going to be spicy when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers quarterback, and we know that. So ultimately, though, moving forward, the San Francisco 49ers remain in a fantastic spot. You talked about betting odds. Pro Football Focus had the 49ers ranked number 2 overall in their pre-draft power rankings. So clearly the 49ers are still getting a ton of respect. I just think what we are struggling with from the outside looking in, Trey Lance giving up all the picks to go get him. We want to see that materialize. We haven't seen that materialized. We are fearful that that is going to go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history. We don't want that to go down as one of the worst trades, and we want Trey Lance to be successful all in one. But if the organization is talking about Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy, that is an admission that maybe Trey isn't the guy. Maybe we did make one of the worst trades in NFL history. So that is what I believe in of its essence is what's happening is people are holding on to like, we, partly, yes, we want to see Trey Lance be successful 100%. But we also have to understand it's a results business. And at the end of the day, the 49ers are going to do what's best for them, regardless of capital, regardless of trade, regardless of feelings, any of it. So it's like we can argue back and forth until we're blue in the face and all this type of stuff. But it's like, man, San Francisco 49ers have set up their organization. They've clearly like opened what feels like this quarterback situation into a competition. And at the end of the day, whoever rises to the occasion is going to be quarterback one. And hopefully it's Trey Lance. Hopefully it's Brock Purdy. And if it is Sam Darnold, hopefully it's for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at the end of the day, like we can argue this whole situation about who we want. But like at minimum, the 49ers have insulated the quarterback spot and their entire roster is built out. And we've seen it. The 49ers are one Brian Burns away from having a potato be successful at quarterback. So at a certain point, if they get that elite edge, whether it's with remaining free agents, they make a draft day trade, all of this could be just like, hey, we just need a guy who gets the ball to CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and that's it. So at the end of the day, get ready for training camp. Get ready for OTAs. Get your popcorn ready, my guy.
One more thing. I'm gonna keep it spicy.
I'm gonna keep it spicy. He's letting y'all know ahead of time.
The Trey Lance trade, unfortunately, if you're just going based off of what they are talking about when it comes to how they've handled this, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't brought back because of fear of injury. That was a hedge. That was a hedge against what they were seeing. Okay.
I agree.
And now we're going into this season, and now there's talk of Sam Darnold splitting reps. That's another hedge. And if you think it's just because the 49ers lost all 4 quarterbacks, if you want to be technical, sure, that has something to do with it. But I will say this. For the situation that I think every single person thought, whoever the quarterback that the 49ers drafted 3 is going into the best situation because of coaching, because of roster, because of the weapons, it was probably the worst situation for Trey Lance. Trey Lance was a project, and he was not allowed the time to grow. He was not allowed the time to grow. For me, what I think is when you're usually picking at 3, you're a team that allows development, right? Jacksonville can draft Trevor Lawrence, and you know what? You can have a whole season to work through whatever it is. We're going to build around you, and you get to build up. But they're not expected to win right then. Chicago Bears draft Justin Fields. Hey, Justin Fields, we'll put you in eventually, but we're not expected to win. What the 49ers' biggest mistake was this. Trading for a guy that needed reps and also not giving him the reps while not being able to navigate your win now window. I think the 49ers realize what we've all realized. You can't just keep saying, well, we'll be back next year. It's not how the NFL works. It is certainly not how the NFL works. Teams catch up. Teams are making moves to catch you. Your players get older. And every year that you keep kicking the can down the road that we'll get them next year is you're putting yourself in a harder predicament. I do feel that there is a world where maybe Trey Lance isn't a good quarterback. Maybe, right? There's a realm of possibilities, right? That Trey Lance is not going to be successful regardless of where he landed. But I do think that this was the wrong situation for him. And the 49ers miscalculated what they could do with him in terms of developing him while tightroping this win now roster, which they tried to do in the first year and say, like, hey, Jimmy, go get it. I think that wasn't exactly the worst thing, even if we in the beginning of the year were saying, hey, just let the kid play because he does need reps. Mm-hmm. But here we are right now. And I just think that when you look at it and you look at the way that they've been moving, I do feel that Trey wasn't given the opportunity. And then you have the injury happen, and here we are. So this trade is going to be evaluated on its results. But again, I firmly believe that they miscalculated this in terms of Trey Lance's development and how they wanted to win. That's my thing.
Yeah, no, I think I've talked about that as well. It's like we thought this was the best situation for a rookie quarterback, but it was like, well, not a rookie quarterback that needs development, not a quarterback that needs to kind of retool his mechanics and kind of rebuild from the ground up, because that's how severe it was with Trey Lance. Remember, like, he goes into OTAs with one set of mechanics and he comes out with a completely different set of mechanics. And you're like, you start to realize, like, oh, they're really changing how he plays the quarterback position. So again, it'll be fascinating to see how it ultimately plays out. But yeah, I think that's just where we're stuck on kind of the overarching themes of the quarterback position, less so the nuance and competition and what football is and its in general and like what its essence is. We're kind of more talking about the, like, man, are we really just going to give up that much picks and not play this guy? Like, what, we're just, I think there's so many variables that it makes it really hard to rationalize, like, sometimes what's going on. Brian says, screw practice. We need Trey in a VR Madden playing on all Madden.
Man, those windows close fast on all Madden, man. I was watching somebody play. I went to this arcade in Orlando, and they have all the arcade games you can play, Wii U, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and a guy was playing. And I'm like, oh, that guy's open. He throws the football, and that window just closed. Like, so I don't know, man. It would help. But a little bit back to just this more than anything. That's the thing, is there's this weird thing about, well, you can't lose your job based on injury. But that's not true. That's absolutely not true. Right? Trey Lance got injured. And I think, again, if Brock Purdy was healthy, ready to go, I don't think any of us would argue that Brock Purdy needs to be the guy starting right away. Right? But Brock Purdy's injured, and Trey Lance is going to get a shot now. And people are saying, well, you can't lose your job to injury. Well, that's not true at all. It's a results-driven business. Kyle loves the hot hand. Most do, though, by the way. Like, most coaches are going to go with the hot hand. It's not just Kyle. So I do think it's interesting to see that the reason that Trey Lance didn't get reps early on was because it was a win-now team. They went with Jimmy Garoppolo. Cool. Makes sense. And, who can argue? They got, a few minutes within making the Super Bowl again. Next year, you turn it over to Trey Lance. You give him all the reps. And unfortunately, he breaks his ankle in the second game. And then, honestly, Brock Purdy comes in and he plays some incredible football, man. And he looks great in this offense. He's moving the ball. They're scoring 30 points like nobody's business. But now he's injured. So that's just it's always about what's going on now. In a perfect world, Brock Purdy would have just honestly said, hey, they are ready to go. Brock Purdy's ready to go. Go. And just go. And I think everybody will be fine with that. Who could argue, right? 8-0. That last game, you can't really put the loss on him because he got injured in the first play. So Brock Purdy technically hasn't lost a game that he started and finished. He hasn't. Mm-hmm. Not technically, he just hasn't. So, again, We're not operating in a perfect world. Unfortunately, this injury has thrown another monkey wrench and just made the 49ers quarterback position the same circus that it's always been. Always. Every single year. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. So, That's the part that, again, it's like you're prognosticating what you think is going to happen. That's fine. I have no problem with predicting things. I think that's part of what makes sports fun. But we just don't know. And if you're prognosticating, just make sure that you kind of know in the back of your mind that the best laid plans of mice and men, and we don't live in a perfect world. So again, like, it's just we as 49er fans should know better than anybody that things just don't go according to plan. And I think that's really just where I'm at with almost everything aside from the quarterback play.
I really learned that in 2021 when I was banging the table for Trey Lance to start. I thought he was going to start. I was like, we were at training camp. I'm like, Trey Lance is playing better, or maybe not better, but at least on par with Jimmy, and had the rushing ceiling. I was like, you got to play Trey. And they didn't. And I was like, all right, time for me to step back and remember that there are roster politics. There are a lot of stuff that goes on that we aren't privy to, and that's why it's a fluid situation. And again, I do think Trey would have taken over in 2021 if he didn't get hurt in Arizona.
He was this close in Chicago. I was at the game in Chicago.
I think he's already starting Chicago. He starts Chicago because if he doesn't get hurt against Arizona, he's starting against the Colts in a monsoon. His legs are the difference in that game.
All right,
they win that game. Then it's Trey Lance's job. He starts Chicago. Chicago, you get Trey versus Justin. Trey beats Justin. Boom. Just think of that hindsight and how just that 3-game span could have changed the trajectory of Trey's career up until this point.
So I was in Chicago for that game, and coming out of halftime, the 49ers offense was struggling, right? And the Bears were actually looking good in this game. And Trey Lance has his helmet on, and he's warming up. Like, he's not warming up just tossing the football back and forth. You can tell when there's intent for guys to warm up and get ready. Right? And the 49ers are on 3rd and 24 on their side of the field. Jimmy Garoppolo throws a screen pass to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel damn near houses it. Remember, it got called back at the 1, and Jimmy runs it in. And I would argue that they were very close to making a switch. And there was something that came out from the sideline about Kyle talking to Jimmy and saying, this is easy shit. Can you do it? And it seemed like, again, we were getting there. But again, that's not how it played out. But if you think that it was just done and there was no way that they were ever going to go to him, it was happening in Chicago. And then Deebo runs it down to the 1. Jimmy scores a touchdown. They get another stop. The offense starts to pick up, and the rest is history. And the 49ers roll on to the NFC Championship from there. That was the moment right there. Where were you when Deebo Samuel saved the 49ers season and saved Jimmy Garoppolo's job? Where were you?
Jimmy Garoppolo's job. And that goes back to John Lynch's comments in the exit interview talking about Trey Lance's ability to stay healthy. It wasn't a shot. It was facts. If Trey was available, I think he would have taken over. That's my personal belief. I think the Arizona game was tough. It would have been a tough game against the Colts in that freaking torrential downpour. But I think his legs would have been the difference. And then he goes into Chicago as the starter. And I think you get a legendary game between Fields and Trey. The whole and that if he wins that game under those circumstances, the Trey Lance agenda is through the roof. But Jimmy, or like you said, Deebo takes that thing in. The agenda, after he gets hurt, of course, but the agenda is flipped on its head. And now we're playing catch up. And then he gets the opportunity, then gets hurt again. Now he's playing catch up again. It's just timing has been not Trey's friend.
And Kyle said as much. We were ready to go with Trey Lance after the Arizona game, and we were getting ready to start him. He got injured, and that was that. Like, he literally said that. Knee sprain, right, in that game. So again, like, it doesn't matter what happened, right? Like, during that time, it's just the quarterback situation. Again, and I'm going to go back to this. The 49ers, if they have done such an incredible job with this roster, they have done such an incredible job when it comes to coaches and the culture. They've built all those things. The one thing that they've continued to find a way to mismanage, or have, all right, you know what? I won't even say mismanage. Have bad luck with. Have bad luck with is the quarterback position. Just bad luck.
Mhm.
Just bad luck, right? But
All the way
at
through.
what point is it bad luck? At what point is it just straight up mismanagement? And I think we're starting to get into this discussion now more and more when you see what they moved up to get Trey Lance for. And now, you've got a guy who you used the last pick on, who, if he was healthy today, should start right away, right? Like based on what he did. And then you have a reclamation project with Sam Darnold. It's funny to me that Kyle at the the owners meeting said, well, there's a reason Sam Darnold was taken number 3. Well, wasn't there a reason that Trey Lance was taken number 3?
Aren't both things kind of synonymous with one another? Both had pretty spectacular physical tools.
I'm just asking, Brad.
They both needed development as processors.
Just asking, Brad. You can't say that. You can't say there's a reason. Well, you look at Sam Darnold, he's put some good things on tape, and there's a reason he was picked number 3. You got to say there's a reason you picked Trey Lance at number 3, right?
Dude, this quarterback thing is nuts. I can't wait for the 30 for 30 on Kyle Shanahan's tenure.
Wait, is the 30 for 30 actually about 49ers Twitter and the fans, or is it about the quarterback situation? Because I feel
literally
like it needs to
about
be both.
the quarterback, and they bring in a layer of the fan argument and the narrative change, and
ESPN holler at us to do the interviews. So
we got you the background, the real like we're in the weeds with this fandom portion of it, so we can definitely put them in the right direction there, right?
You know what I love, Brad? You know what I love, Brad? Real quick is, all these content creators, all they do is to just try to drum up narratives, and maybe some of that's true for some people.
Yeah.
But this team is a content factory all year round. And all we do is like we're sitting in a boat. We're sitting in a boat, right? Picture Brad and I are content creators, and we're sitting in a boat, and we're just moving through. But you know what we're doing? We're not trying to catch fish. We're trying to smack as many fish with the oar and keep them in the boat so we can take it home and eat it. We're not out there with our reels. We don't have to do anything but be out there and be fishermen, because the fish are jumping out of the water into the boat. And I'm like, Brad, hit that one. No, Brad, hit this one. Oh, wait, Trent's not coming back. Oh, wait, he said he's retiring. And we're trying to hit every single fish. That is what the 49ers are. They're the water, we're the fishermen, and we're just trying to keep as many fish as we can in the boat.
You've said this multiple times, and ever since...
Oh, you muted.
I don't know why my mic keeps doing this. I have a mic issues, but you've said this multiple times, and the first time you said it, I was like, damn, he's right. The 49ers are the real content creators. We just react to them. We just react to what they do. We just like this is what they do. We don't like hate it. We love it. Great job, man. We're
different. Imagine if we were, all right, let's just say, I don't know, man, Indianapolis Colts content creators. Well, we would have a whole ton of content right now to talk about whatever quarterback they're going to take.
Yeah.
But that's boring, because it's just that, right? Like they're not in a position to go anywhere. Nobody expects anything from them. They're not this prestigious, at least of late, franchise, right? With the 49ers, when you become a content creator for the 49ers, you get all of the content. I mean, for God's sakes, last year, after the Titans game, John Lynch likes to tweet about leaving Jimmy in Tennessee. Boom, content gets created for you. And you just were watching a football game, so we have that to talk about as well. The trade up to 3. Is it Mac Jones? Is it Trey Lance? Is it Justin Fields? We don't do anything but react. And that's it. Like there's Now, sure. There's content creators who put things out there that are designed to get you to click on it, that really don't have too much merit, but are good to drum up discussion. And I think that's fine. Again, once again, I think that's fine. I think the crux of sports talks are hypotheticals and, prognosticating, all of those things. I think all of that is necessary. But of course, you don't have to do any of that realistically when it comes to this team. All you have to do is just follow their news. That's it. And that's the content yourself. You don't have to make stuff up about this team. It's all right there in front of you. They can say stuff that is literally black and white, and you look at it. Well, this is what they mean by that. Boom, you got yourself an hour episode. Literally, this owner meeting happened last week, and here we are sitting here, and we're just sitting here still talking about the same thing, acting like it's brand new. They're gonna continue to give us content. So again, we're just the fishermen trying to keep the fish in the boat, Brad.
100%. It's pretty wild, man. They give us a ton of stuff to talk about, and again, there is plenty of room to focus on the rest of roster building, the rest of this roster, and I promise you we will.
You're muted again. You good? Take your time, buddy.
But again, I wanted to get Spicy Aponte's take on the state of the franchise.
I don't feel like it was spicy though, Brad. I feel like I have a boring. I have a boring
or spicy in of itself. It's rational.
I have a boring outlook on this quarterback position, and it's let the best man win. And please, whoever it is, this is what I want. There's two things that I want, please, guys. And my voice is cracking because I'm tired. What I want is I want a guy forever now. I want a franchise guy. Please, one of you three guys, please be that. And I want one of these guys to give us Super Bowl number 6. That's all I want. I don't care. I don't care who it is. I really don't. I have no agenda as to who it is. I am just opening the door for all three of them because my heart is big enough to accept one of them to just be the guy. Please, I am done. I want a guy. We haven't had a guy since Steve Young. Please, just anybody, one of you guys, take it. Take the job, be our guy, and win the 6-1 for us. We will be much happier. We will be so much happier. We will stop arguing with each other. 187, I love you, buddy. I'm sorry. I take back many of the things that I said. I said that when I was angry. I love you. Thank you for watching. I don't want you to not watch. All I want is to win. That's all I want, man. That's all I want. I just don't want to keep talking about. I don't want to be 48 years old in the next like 10, 15 years and sit there and still be like, well, I hope this guy is the guy. Well, we're going to have a competition to get a training camp. Please, someone. I need a 10 to 15-year franchise quarterback so we can just have that locked in. Please, 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 please.
I cannot express like how having a franchise guy alleviates stress as a content creator.
I look at the Chiefs and I look at the Bills and I look at the Chargers and I'm like, they're just like, I want that. Please.
They're just like, hey, we're going to the playoffs every year. It's not a question. We got our quarterback. We're trying to get the right guys around their quarterback. We're good. Like we're not cooking.
We're not interviewing Andy Dalton to see if he wants to come in and play. We're not going up to like straight up number 3 pick. We have our guy. That's all I want, man. Please. Oh my God.
We're not arguing about should they have traded, should they have stayed at 12.
Brad. What's the meme, Brad? It's Lord, I see the things that you've given other people, and I just want that for me. That's literally what I look at when I see those top guys. I look at Cincinnati, and they've got Joe Burrow, and I'm like, man, please, one day, that might be us one day. Please. My goodness.
Bro, you are preaching. Like, at the end of the day, I just want a guy. I want to know who the quarterback is. Like, I got Joe over my shoulder. I got Steve Young floating around back here. Like, I just want to know like who the quarterback is. I want to rally around that guy and be like, hey man, we're gonna ride or die with this guy. We're not gonna like be looking over like our shoulders or like, hey, his backup's better. Or, hey, look, we just got this undrafted guy out of D2 who's gonna come in and challenge. Like, no, like just get the quarterback, find the quarterback. And so I think that's why this year is intriguing in that sense, is I think we're going to move one step closer, but also looking back, we could be going the furthest thing away from understanding who quarterback 1 is. So that's why this is going to be a fascinating offseason in regards to finding who really is the 49ers quarterback 1. And Jason, would you say that's the state of the San Francisco 49ers?
Wow, way to pull it all the way through. That's just what a really good host does. I mean, that's cooking. But yes, and I see Blank saying it. We've captured every other piece, just can't hit on quarterback. We need a quarterback who can stay healthy for 17 games and can operate the offense and just push us over the hump, man. That's it. That's it, man. I mean, again, it's the 49ers have high-level players. at left tackle, tight end, wide receiver, running back, linebacker,
They got
cornerback.
future Hall of Famers on this roster, multiple.
And yet, here we are with this team, and we're still trying to figure it out. And I think that's what this consensus around the NFL is, around NFL fan bases, is please don't let the 49ers figure this out, because this is an Avengers level threat. Like, this is literally like, you're going to have to really build super teams now if the 49ers figure out this position. That's how good they are. That's how close they are. I love you guys. I get a little angry sometimes. I get a little emotional, but that's why you guys love me, right? If I was boring and I was just here and I was not saying anything of like with any sort of passion, you'd be like, I'm not watching this guy. I love you guys. I don't mean the things that I say when I'm angry at times. Appreciate it.
No, they 100% tune in for Spicy Aponte, and honestly, we're upset if we don't get Spicy Aponte.
I know, that's the other thing too. If I come on here like, well, you know, then everybody's just like, oh, that's boring, man. I'm tired of this shit, man. And they just start tuning out.
Bro, like, before we even sign the kicker, bro, like gassing me up, bro. You gotta press Aponte about kicker. I'm like, look, hell yeah, I'm about to press him about kicker. We're gonna get him turned up.
Listen, all right, you want me to turn up? I don't care, man. You better kick. All of those kicks better go through the damn uprights, buddy.
Come on, Zane.
I'm looking at you, buddy. I'm looking at you. We're gonna have
Zanes haven't worked out for the 49ers.
Zane Beatles, Zane Gonzalez.
Zane's haven't worked out that great, so you're against it, Zane.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna let Brad watch the quarterback competition. I'm gonna watch the kicker competition.
Please. Please. And I want all the expert analysis. I want it all. Because it's just going to be Aponte. He's going to get 15 minutes in watching the kickers on the opposite side of the field, not a part of practice. And he's going to be, I'm done with this. I'm done. He's going to walk out of practice.
All right, for anybody who's been at I don't know how this quarterback competition is going to go. Like, are they going to just break down and they're going to have a portion where they go with the kicker and everything and they just go ahead? Because if you've ever been to training camp, anybody, they're literally walking. It's Tabor Pepper, Robbie Gould, and Mitch Wishnowsky. All they're doing is just walking around practice. They don't do anything.
And they kind of get out there early, so they're kicking early before practice starts. They have maybe 2 or 3 special teams periods a week, but it's for 5 minutes.
So how are we going to judge this competition? This is how, because they're not going to set aside time in practice when all these quarterbacks need reps and these players need to get ready for the season, to just say, all right, it's kicker time. And one guy goes, the other guy goes. I'm fascinated. I think it's going to play out on the field where they're going to have half the kicks for Zane, half the kicks for whoever it is they bring in.
But the draftable rookie.
If you've ever been to a training camp practice, you know for a fact that they don't do anything, not a thing. Tabor Pepper, Mitch Wishnowsky, Robbie Gould, those guys get the best paycheck to do the same amount of work that I do at training camp.
Just vibes out there.
It's always vibes.
Just vibes only. So again, gonna be a great year, Jason. I could feel it in my bones. The 49ers, the ultimate content machine, as we get ready. So we're close to the draft. So I would imagine both. I know you're going to be kicking up draft content, getting those articles out, all that type of stuff at Niners Nation. I'm assuming shows back up this week on your channel.
Yeah, 49ers afternoon talk. Just didn't do it today because I'm here with Brad. We had to get it back because I didn't do State of the Franchise on Friday. But yeah, 49ers afternoon talk, usually Monday through Thursday at 4 o'clock, 1 p.m. Pacific. And, Spring Red Option with my guy and State of the Franchise with my guy too. So yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be a fun time. I can't wait. I'm ecstatic. I'm through the roof and I need camp to start. But the draft we still have. And I'm interested in a lot of guys that are going to be in the 49ers range. I want Will Mallory. I want Eli Ricks. Yeah, there's other players that I've got too that I'll be talking about. But yeah, for sure.
And we feel you if you have quarterback fatigue. We promise. It's
this time. This time I feel like it's warranted. It's definitely warranted this time, just because of the injuries. Sure. I think it's warranted.
Well, just like we talked about, we don't know what the heck's been going on with quarterbacks since Kyle's taken over. So it's just, hey, It's kind of all kind of blurring together. Or you could even go past beyond that, back to when Blaine Gabbert was starting games for the 49ers, or whether it's Colin Kaepernick or Alex Smith
Oh, don't say
or
his name. You're gonna get people upset. Do not say his name. That's a trigger name, and that just brings it's like a dog whistle, and everybody just runs to the chat just so they
and
can
it's
say.
2023. They need to get over it.
I mean, they say that we need to get over it. All you did was mention his name. That's it. All you did was mention his name.
But anyways, we got a lot, and we're gonna keep staying on top of it. Make sure you like and sub to both channels, and we're gonna keep cooking for you guys. Appreciate all you guys as always tapping in and vibing with us, whether it's spicy, whether we're chilling, whatever it is. We're glad to have you on board. So appreciate you guys. We're out of here for now. Any parting words, Jason?
Let's go Yankees.
Get out of here. All right, we're going up. All right, we'll see you guys later. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.